Just an analogy. Follow me on this. When investigating crimes involving scopolamine is like trying to solve a bank robbery, where the thief used a remote control to march the bank manager into the vault, unlocked it for them, and then deleted the security footage. The victim appears complicit during the act, and by the time they wake up, the evidence of the coercion has chemically evaporated, leaving law enforcement with a crime that looks like a choice. Isn't that interesting? The fact that this drug, as dangerous as it is, has law enforcement not believing anything you say. Instead, leave you figuring how to protect yourself alone, and of course the doctor. That is, if you decide to go into the emergency room for a toxicologist's possible diagnosis of the drug used to manipulate your mind. Now, this would scare me to death. Not knowing what happened to, trying to explain something not tangible to strangers that are to help, but not understanding this bizarre incident encountered? Tell me something. What would you do?
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've got a stack of sources today that really throws a chilling contrast into focus.
It really does.
We're looking at chemical threats, but not just drugs that threaten life, but ones that specifically steal consent and, well, actively erase the memory of the crime itself.
Yeah.
So today we are deep diving into fentanyl and scopolamine, which you might know by its pretty alarming nickname, Devil's Breath. And we got a question from you, our listener, that gets right to the heart of this. How do these two substances operate? And crucially, why does scopolamine make victims feel so invisible, so disbelieved by police?
Right, because the evidence just vanishes.
Exactly. And on the flip side, how is fentanyl dominating the American drug crisis on such a catastrophic scale?
That contrast is the perfect way to frame it. I mean, you have fentanyl, the synthetic opioid, which causes a complete systemic shutdown.
Immediate incapacitation.
Yeah, respiratory failure, death. It's a physiological crisis. But scopolamine, or burundanga as it's known, induces a state the sources call active obedient amnesia.
Active and obedient, that's a chilling combination.
It is. The victim is functional. They can walk, talk, follow commands. But the brain is literally deleting the memory of the event as it happens. These are just fundamentally different definitions of chemical danger.
Okay, so let's unpack the scopolamine side first. That forensic invisibility, it's just so insidious. The case files show it's almost impossible for victims to prove a crime happened. From a pharmacological standpoint, why does it just vanish?
It's what the sources call the fugitive window, which is a perfect description. Scopolamine has a really, really short half-life.
How short are we talking?
If you take it orally or through an IV, its half-life is clocking in at around 69 minutes.
An hour and 9 minutes. That is unbelievably fast clearance for something with such devastating effects.
Exactly. Which means the majority of the drug is just gone. It's excreted, unchanged, in the urine within the first 12 hours.
12 hours.
So if a toxicology screen happens after that 12-hour threshold, which is crucial for backing up a victim's story, it is highly, highly unlikely to come back positive.
And this rapid clearance is basically weaponized by the drug's main effect on the brain, the amnesia. We're talking severe anterograde amnesia.
Correct. And that's the key. Anterograde amnesia means you cannot form new memories while you're under its influence. You're awake, you're participating, but your brain's recording function has been switched off.
So you're unaware you're a victim while the crime is happening because your memory isn't storing the event.
Precisely. And this creates that catastrophic timing gap. Victims usually wake up, they regain full awareness maybe 12 to 24 hours after the drug was given.
So by the time they realize their wallet is gone, their bank account is empty, and they go to the police.
That critical 12-hour detection window has already slammed shut.
And we saw that tragic example in the sources, right? The Canadian traveler, he presented 6 days after being drugged in Bogota.
Yeah.
All the clinical symptoms matched scopolamine intoxication, the confusion, the memory gaps, but the toxicology screen was completely negative.
That is the forensic tragedy of this drug. Testing for it is like trying to catch a message on one of those apps where the message deletes itself after you read it.
The effect happened. The crime was committed.
But the evidence chemically evaporated. And this gap, it fuels uncertainty. And it's why victims are so often met with skepticism by law enforcement. It's heartbreaking.
And that behavioral state is what makes it so useful for criminals in places like Colombia. They call it the $1,000,000 ride, the paseo milenario.
Yes, because the victim appears completely conscious and compliant. They're entering PINs at ATMs, they're signing documents.
They're performing complex tasks.
Exactly. Their body is working, but their brain's ability to record those actions is disabled. So to a bystander, it looks like a normal transaction. And the victim is put in this impossible position. They were drugged, but they physically handed over their own money, and they can't even remember doing it.
So the scopolamine victim is actively moving but mentally erased. Let's shift now to fentanyl, which is a complete physical collapse. The chemical mechanisms must be worlds apart.
Oh, entirely different systems. Scopolamine is an anticholinergic deliriant. It basically works by blocking acetylcholine receptors in the brain.
And those are crucial for memory, right, in the hippocampus.
That's it. You block that system, and you create that obedient submissiveness and the amnesia.
So if the brain is a computer, it's like the power is on, the monitor is active, but the save function is just broken.
Perfect analogy. And when medics see a scopolamine victim, they look for very specific signs, the anticholinergic profile. You see extremely dilated pupils, what they call mydriasis, plus severe dry mouth, confusion, blurred vision.
So the immediate threat isn't death, it's the loss of will.
Precisely. Now, fentanyl is the total opposite. It's a synthetic opioid, an incredibly powerful central nervous system depressant.
And where does it hit in the brain?
It acts on the mu-opioid receptors, and when it binds to those, it's immediate systemic shutdown. It's like pulling the power plug right out of the wall.
Their body just goes limp.
Unresponsive, consciousness is lost almost instantly. The hallmark of a fentanyl overdose is that classic triad: coma, respiratory depression, and those famous pinpoint pupils.
And it's the respiratory depression, the breathing stopping that kills.
That is the fatal mechanism, the lack of oxygen or hypoxia. But the sources also point to a rare but incredibly dangerous phenomenon with high doses: wooden chest syndrome.
What is that exactly?
It's a sudden, severe rigidity of the muscles in the torso. It physically prevents the victim from breathing, even before the typical CNS depression fully sets in.
And that must make intervention incredibly difficult.
It does, because if the chest muscles are locked, solid, standard rescue breathing, even advanced ventilation, can be almost impossible. It's a stark difference. Fentanyl is a visible, immediate, lethal emergency. Scopolamine is an invisible crime that destroys memory.
Okay, let's pivot to the scale of that visible lethal emergency. Fentanyl is 50 to 100 times more potent than heroin, and the sources show this potency is just. It's reshaping the entire landscape of drug use in America.
The statistics are, they're horrifying. They demand a pause. Fentanyl is the primary driver of a synthetic opioid epidemic, period.
What are the numbers?
Synthetic opioid deaths rose from about 2,600 in 2011 to over 70,000 in 2021.
70,000?
And fentanyl officially overtook heroin as the #1 opioid killer back in 2018. It hasn't looked back.
And the risk has changed, right? It's not just people intentionally seeking out fentanyl anymore.
Absolutely not. A huge source of the fatalities is from counterfeit pills. Fentanyl is cheap, it's easy to make, and it's pressed into tablets that look exactly like legitimate drugs like oxycodone.
And it's being mixed into other drugs.
Yes. Cocaine, methamphetamine, often without the user even knowing. It turns a stimulant dose into a lethal opioid exposure.
So why has this one chemical replaced so many others so quickly? What's the logistical advantage?
It's really two simple economic realities. First, its high potency makes it exponentially easier and cheaper to produce and smuggle. You get way more profit from a much smaller volume.
Less risk for the smugglers.
And second, the supply chain is very consolidated. The sources confirm that about 98% of the illicit fentanyl coming into the U.S. is from Mexico. And Mexico gets the precursor chemicals almost entirely from Chinese suppliers.
And the very thing that makes it so profitable, that extreme potency, also creates a huge lethal risk in the supply chain itself.
That's the awful irony. Pure fentanyl powder is so potent, it's incredibly hard for illicit labs to dilute it precisely. Tiny inaccuracies in measurement can cause massive variations in potency between batches.
So one pill could be survivable and the next one, looking identical, could be deadly.
Exactly. Every single dose is a life or death gamble based on how well some criminal mixed a batch of powder.
Let's circle back to scopolamine, devil's breath. We have to address the claims you see online, that really dramatic stuff. Criminals blowing powder in someone's face, putting it on a car handle. This idea of a silent weapon.
Yeah, we have to fact check those. While it's theoretically possible for scopolamine to enter the body through the skin or inhalation, experts are, let's just say, highly skeptical.
Skeptical that you could get a large enough dose that way.
Exactly. Dusting a business card or blowing powder at someone in passing is highly unlikely to deliver the dose needed for that compliant, obedient state for a $1 million ride.
So why do these myths persist?
Because the truth is more mundane, but still terrifyingly effective. One major study found that in 75% of cases, the drug was just mixed into a drink or food.
Covertly.
Right. It's a colorless, odorless powder. It's perfect for that. You don't need some cinematic display of blowing powder in someone's face. You just need a few seconds alone with their drink.
So this is the key distinction for our listener then. Fentanyl is a national drug crisis in the U.S. Scopolamine seems to be more of a targeted regional crime.
That's it, exactly. The U.S. State Department reports these unofficial estimates, 50,000 incidents a year, but they are overwhelmingly concentrated in Colombia and other South American nations.
Where the drug, burundanga, comes from the borrachero tree.
Correct. And the crime is almost exclusively robbery. 94% of cases in one study were just for robbery. The targets are often specific, too.
Who are they targeting?
Often foreign, young men who are perceived as being wealthy, usually in places like bars or nightclubs. And we have to note the modern tactics. Criminals are now using dating apps to specifically lure foreign visitors to places where they can be drugged and robbed.
So it's sophisticated, it's targeted, and it relies on ingestion, not on the silent weapon myths.
Exactly.
So to synthesize this for our listener, fentanyl is this clear, lethal emergency. It's a systemic shutdown demanding an immediate physical response.
Right. It demands naloxone, Narcan. But scopolamine presents this confounding invisible crime where the weapon is the memory loss itself. It leads to this obedient amnesia and forensically self-erasing evidence.
And the outcome for the victim afterwards is completely different. If you survive a fentanyl overdose, the evidence is there. It's physical, it's medically clear. But if you are a victim of scopolamine, by the time you realize your memory is gone and your money is missing, that evidence has chemically evaporated. You're left alone, struggling to find support, let alone belief.
Yeah, the system just struggles to confirm a crime that leaves no trace.
And this leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. The most profound effect of scopolamine isn't just the crime itself, but the specific property that makes it impossible to prove that crime ever happened. So when a chemical compound can literally delete the memory of a criminal event, how does our society adapt its definition of forensic evidence and of consent to serve victims who cannot even recall their own victimization? Something to mull over as you process these two wildly different chemical threats.
Okay, that was an excellent discussion about these two prominent fatal drugs. At least, that's how I see it. Let me put my opinion aside and focus on what differentiates scopolamine and fentanyl. So, here is the most effective drug. I call it the mind control, literally. I have heard of people that take special trips to South America, location unknown, and take this drug as a way to say enlightenment. I'm not sure what type of enlightenment, when you can't recall anything under its influence. Pretty wild, I'd say. Anyway, scopolamine is like a computer where the monitor is on and the user is typing, but the save function has been disabled. The computer is working and processing commands, but once the session ends, no file exists to prove what happened. This reminds me of the movie Eraser. Remember the movie if you've seen it? In the year 1996, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Vanessa Williams, James Caan, James Coburn, and Robert Pastorelli. It's, to me comically, well, let's just say I enjoyed it. What this drug does temporarily erase your memory while under the influence. Once, like in the movie Eraser, the light flashes before you, zap, nothing, not a memory to recollect, so you're left baffled, lost, confused, and what to do next. Like being stripped naked and you're trying to find your clothes in the dark. Wow! All I have to say, this is a very dangerous drug. Okay, next. Fentanyl is characterized as an exceptionally potent synthetic opioid used for intense pain management and anesthesia. Well, there you have it. 2 dangerous drugs in the world and in America. Streets more fentanyl than scopolamine, though I wouldn't eliminate the thought that it isn't covertly used in America. Be aware, be safe, and always. Thanks for listening to another Rise podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, let us know by liking the video, subscribe for more content like this, and leave your comment. We would love to hear from our awake people. Bye-bye.